Hey guys, hope everybody's having a good day out there today. Welcome back to another edition of Intuitive Angling. Today I'm going to show you guys and talk to you about my post-spawn shallow water cranking technique that has been really productive for me the past 3 years, ever since this Megabass Z2 crankbait came out. I'm going to go in detail about what I look for. Works all over the country, sort of give you some tips and advice on that. And I think it's going to add up to a lot more fish with you guys starting now over about the next month. And also, before we get started, if you guys are interested in any of these Z2s I'm talking about, or the Z1s, the shallower model, I'll include the Baitworks link in the description, and you guys can get them there. It's a great way to support the channel. Okay guys, let's talk about the post-spawn cranking. Now, what you have in post-spawn cranking, it's like we're sort of in that starting period of it now. The spring's been a little bit behind this year, but we're sort of starting to see some fish moving out after spawning. And what happens is, as these fish transition out from their spawning areas, before they move to their early summer patterns where you catch them like deep cranking and football head jigs and that type of stuff, a lot of times they stop off at shallow water cover on their way out to these areas. Now, this is particularly true if you're talking about lakes that have a lot of river systems and creek arms feeding them. That has a little bit more stained water. And the pattern that I'm talking about with guys, with the Z2 crankbait here, it's the same type of pattern that you look for with a square bill crankbait in the post spawn. So what I do is, the first thing I want to do is I want to try to find the dirtiest water in the lake, any water that's off colored. I'm looking for water visibility of less than 2 foot. Ideally, it's like anywhere between, say, 12 to 15 inches is where this technique works best. And the cover can be a variety of things. It can be shallow grass, it can be rock, it can be rock transitions, it can be stumps, wood, whatever like that. Just whatever the lake seems has to support at the time. So, what are you doing there? Okay, Elijah's is on his way. I started playing there. So the first thing I do is, like, once I identify those areas, and it's usually, like I said, towards the back end of a creek arm or up in the river portion, I get in there on the bank in that shallow water cover, and I fish this Z2 and this Z1 crankbait the exact same way, or the areas that I would with like a square bill crankbait. Now, this does have a square bill, but it's not really considered a square bill crankbait because the lip is smaller. This is actually the one I prefer, though. It's the Megabass Z2. The reason this thing works good, guys, is I have never seen a crankbait that has a diving lip on it like this, gets down to 4 to 6 feet, that will get over cover like this. You can throw this thing in the middle of a laydown and it just deflects and crawls up over everything. It just does not get hung up. I've never seen anything like it in my life. So if I'm fishing laydowns, like I said, I'm throwing right into the laydowns. If I'm bouncing them through rocks, I'm trying to deflect it off of rocks just like I do with the square bill. But guys, this thing has taken place for me of a lot of my square bill fishing. I mean, a lot of the square bill fishing that I have done forever, the old balsa square bills or the Megabass S cranks, the square bill, which I'd still do use some. But I'm telling you guys right now, I'm sharing you guys with a secret that I don't talk a lot about. Ever since this S crank came out, this Z crank, the Z2 crankbait came out, I don't hardly ever throw square bill crankbaits anymore. I catch so many more fish on this in the same type of water that it's just something that they just haven't seen. The only thing I can equate it to is, you guys out there that have used like the old Bandit 200s for years, everybody knows that Bandit 200 is one of the greatest fish catchers of all time. This is sort of along the same lines, a little bit smaller, a little bit different profile, but for whatever reason, it triggers the bite. It triggers the fish to bite. And in bass fishing, specifically on crankbaits, you can have the most pretty, the most gorgeous looking crankbait in the world, but if it doesn't have the right combination of size, profile, lip angle, lip design, deflection, wobble, all that type of stuff together, it simply does not catch that many fish. There's something about certain actions that the bass just really bite. And this thing, like I said, is right up there with the Bandit 200 to my top post-spawn crankbait. So really, guys, I just wanted to share this tip with you guys. Like I said, this is not an advertisement. I am sponsored by Megabass. But everybody that I've showed this thing just absolutely loves it. I mean, everybody. I started out fishing it at Grand Lake about 3 years ago, took it all over the country. I've hammered them anywhere you get in those conditions with it. Most of the time I fish this thing on a spinning rod with usually like 10-pound test fluorocarbon line. The reason you can cast it on the bait caster, but you can cast it a lot farther on a spinning rod. If I'm making short casts, that type of stuff, I will use a bait caster sometimes. But the good thing about a spinning rod is you can take this thing and you can pitch it in and around dock corners and around the ends of laydowns a lot more accurately than you could cast it with a bait caster. And all you guys out there, a lot of you dudes that have been on the water lessons with me know what I'm talking about, because I've had a lot of just unbelievable days with my on the water lesson clients with the Z crank, the Z2. So give them a try, guys. Like I said, Baitworks link in the description. You can get a few there. Just put them in your box, man. See what you think about them. I mean, I can promise you guys you'll find a place for them in your box, because they are bass catching baits. So hope you guys are doing good. We'll talk later. See you.